there's some news that came out that Microsoft is going to start deploying a rule in their attack surface reduction toolset that will prevent certain attacks that, like the exploit toolkit Mimikatz uses and other types of exploits. So I want to back up and first talk about why we would use a tool like Mimikatz and what it allows us to do on a network pen test. And so let's say we're on a network pen test and we're able to gain system access, complete control over one system, right? That's just one system in the environment. Maybe there's an exploitable service that was listening on that system, or we were able to compromise somebody's password and log in. One way or another, we end up getting a lot of, okay, we've gained full control over one system. So how do we go from that to laterally moving it throughout the environment, escalating privilege, and ultimately compromising the Active Directory domain? So one such attack sequence is, okay, so we have full control over one system. What we can do is we can dump the password hashes that are on that system in the SAM database. And those are password hashes of the most recently logged in users on that computer, plus like your local admin password hash is usually in there. And so it's not the actual password itself, but it's a hashed version of the password. So let's say we obtain the local admin password hash. Now using this pass the hash technique, we can actually log into other systems with this password hash without having to know the actual password. So we use a tool set like crack map exec or something else to what we call spray those credentials around the network. And essentially, we're seeing where else is that local admin password the same across the network. If we find one system, we log into it, right? And with a tool set like crack map exec, we're able to do this across whole network ranges. So it automates what could otherwise be a tedious operation. And I mean, by this point, a lot of advanced detection, advanced antivirus, next-gen antivirus type of tools will catch some of these things and alert. But oftentimes we do this and nothing happens, nothing stopped, no alerts go off, and things like that. So remember we have full control over one system. And what you can do is you can start looking at the memory of system. So so this tool Mimikatz, what it does is it will look for plain text passwords in memory. In the Microsoft realm, there's a process called LSASS, LSASS, I think. And Mimikatz will dump the running memory of that application, of that process, and oftentimes find plain text passwords. It'll say, hey, Joe Bob's password is I like pizza and beer, ! So through that type of, it requires full system access, but you can read the contents of memory of a process. So when we identify a local admin password and are able to log into a bunch of systems across the network, we run that same process on every system that we find until we find one computer that has like a domain admin logged in. And then usually that Mimikatz style of attack will give us, let's say, a domain admin credential or a highly privileged or something like that. So that's one of the mechanisms through which we laterally move and escalate privilege. Tim, was there anything to add to that? I think, and next I want to go into how we prevent that and what Microsoft is doing to lock that down.
No, that's pretty much what I would have said.
Okay. So, and Tim, I got an echo coming from you. Nice. Thank you. So now, one thing that organizations can do to prevent against that attack sequence that I've outlined is not having the same local admin password on every system. There is a tool set that Microsoft has released called LAPS, what does LAP stand for? Local Admin Password Security, I believe. And LAPS is a free utility. Anyone can use it. And what it does is it sits on Active Directory and it makes sure that every system in your environment has a different local admin password. So if a pen tester or an attacker like us gains full system control, we only have access to that system. We can't use that local admin password hash and get everywhere in the network. So definitely deploying LAPS is a big thing. Now, the second part of our attack is that we dump the running memory of LSAS to look for plain text passwords. That is an activity that legitimate software doesn't do. That is like a very big marker of an active attack on your network. And so what Microsoft is doing in Windows Defender is they are turning on a rule. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'll show you the article that I reference here. Let's see. Do y'all see my screen? Okay, so.
Yes. And hey, by the way, the S in LAPS is solution.
Solution. Okay, good to know. Great. So it's on Bleeping Computer. Microsoft Defender will soon block Windows password theft. So we, I dug into this article, and basically what Microsoft is doing, somebody caught that. Where is it? I think they tried to do this initially with Credential Guard, but that started breaking some stuff. And so what they've since released this attack surface reduction rule sets within Windows Defender. And there's one rule in there that says block credential stealing from the LSAS process. And so by default, that is not configured. And they are changing that to be configured with the default mode set to block. This is a big change. It hasn't happened yet. That change hasn't been rolled out, and we're not sure when it's going to happen, but Microsoft is giving notice that it will change. Doing our exploit as a pen tester, attackers are doing these exploits. Once this change is rolled out and an environment has Windows Defender and they haven't explicitly done any, changes to this rule in Defender, it will start blocking tools like Mimikatz and other tools that rely on being able to read the contents of the LSAS process.
When you dug into the article, did it describe like the details of that? Like how exactly is it blocking it?
So the Windows Defender attack surface reduction, it's at the Windows Defender level. It's at the system level. It sees everything going on in the system. It's and so there are other host-based intrusion prevention systems that do the same thing, but they're not Microsoft developed, right? This is the first time that they're developing this tool set. They have Windows Defender baked into all OS, Windows 10, Windows 11. I think it started in Windows 7, but so it will now start blocking this if you're running Windows Defender. Now, let's say you installed ESET antivirus, or I'm not picking on ESET, just a general antivirus that doesn't have this type of blocking in it. When you install a third-party antivirus product, it turns off Windows Defender, so you don't get this protection. So you got to make sure, if you're not on Windows Defender, that you have a product that is blocking this type of activity. And that's easier said than done. Sometimes you have to dig in and figure it out, and maybe do some testing. Even if the documentation says, yeah, we can block reading LSAS, have you tested it? Have you made sure that that's enforced? That if that does get triggered, somebody is able to centrally notice it from an alert, from a management console perspective. This is a great new enhancement that Microsoft is going to be rolling out. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that this is one technique that we use over and over and over, and it's super successful. I wish everyone would turn this rule on right now. Microsoft's going to force it to go on soon. So I guess we'll see on the timing. But this, I like to see these. It's an incremental step, right? And can an attacker get around this? Absolutely. So in reading the article and the write-up, there are baked-in directories that are excluded from this rule. So there are certain directories in the OS that don't. So if a process is running out of a certain directory, this rule won't actually take effect. So I think what attackers, the next step is the attackers are going to start moving their stuff into a certain directory that's excluded from the attack surface reduction rule, running it there. So it's not a silver bullet. It's not a perfect solution, but definitely an enhancement. And it could stop certain attacks for sure.
When you say that they're going to roll this out, I'm a little confused. They're rolling out their configuration, but this is a configuration that is currently available if you set it up that way, correct?
That's right.
So is this something that we normally recommend to our clients? Is this something that when they get a report back from us, we're like, you need to turn on this ASR rule to block the LSAS?
So depending, a lot of organizations are on a third-party tool set for host-based protections.
Okay.
But if you're using Windows Defender, like if you've got, Microsoft Endpoint Manager and you're using Defender for Office 365 and you're pushing out and you're using Defender as your enterprise solution, you'll get this enhancement. And obviously if you're home, I think now I got to caveat this. This is, I think, for certain flavors of the OS. The full attack surface reduction feature is only supported on Windows Enterprise licenses running Microsoft Defender as the primary antivirus. However, Bleeping Computers tests show that the LSAS ASR rule works on Windows 10 and Windows 11 Pro clients. So if you're on the Pro version of, and if it's any corporate system's usually going to be on the professional edition. It's when you're using your home PC is on personal edition or whatever, that won't have this. This can come out, in one of our evaluations. Oftentimes organizations are using a third-party product, so we will definitely, on any pen test, we'll definitely test this by exploiting this weakness to laterally move and escalate privileges. And we'll definitely, report on that. And this is an opportunity for organizations to get out ahead of that and not have to wait for our pen test recommendation to say, hey, you should do this because it's getting turned on. So this will make the attacker's life a little bit more difficult. It'll make the pen tester's life a little more challenging, but it is a really good step forward, I think, for securing the Microsoft OS and your whole environment. So definitely take a look at that and see how you can incorporate that into your environment. If you're on a third-party antivirus product, you'll want to test, does that product block reading of LSAS? Does it? And there are other things you need to test as well. Our Office macros downloaded off the internet, automatically executed if you run, stuff like that. There are a lot of other ASR, attack surface reduction rules that are handy. So really orgs that can use ASR should look at all of the available rules and start at least rolling those into the monitor state where you can start, not turn it on, but you can see, okay, what would it be blocking if this was turned on? And then once you get a handle on that, then definitely turning on the block, changing that setting to block. Anyway.
Tim, when you're writing these ASR rules and people aren't implementing them, how does it make you feel?
Makes me feel very sad inside. Because they're so good, because all of the things Jeff just talked about, we currently can do that all remotely without ever getting on the computer itself. So I can remotely get all the LSAS information I want, just so that this new rule is really gonna pretty much get rid of that. I'll have to get on individual computers from now on.